So what's your reaction to what's been announced in the House of Commons today? Because so far, I'll be honest, we've had Lord Billamoria and our panel who haven't been too impressed by the fact that you're trying to bring net migration down at all.
Well, I'm really pleased about it. I think it's something that we've recognised the problem. We've looked at what the figures are the last year and the revised figures for the year before. We've simply said that they are far too high. That's not just me saying that. That's not just people on certain wings of parties saying that. The Prime Minister said that. And we just think the numbers, it's too much. So we talk about illegal migration a lot and stopping the boats, but it's actually the net migration that we need to focus on as well.
Why is it too high?
Well, I think the problem here is you have to look at the services we've got, you have to look at housing, you have to look at the number of GPs we've got, the number of school places that we've got, and you have to have a balance. Now, we need the brightest and best. We want international students to come here, we want the doctors, we want the engineers, and of course we also want to welcome refugees from Ukraine, from Hong Kong, and nobody has a problem with that.
But that's quite a lot of... That's just rattled through quite a lot of what the net migration figures are, haven't you?
And that's part of the problem, Sophie, because when you actually break it down and do the number crunching, most of the people coming over do not fit in those categories. They're dependents. They're people who have come with people. Some people who've come on, say, social care visas have brought 4 or 5 dependents or so on, and that all has a cost. Now, we think that's too many, and that's why today we've had the announcement where we're going to tackle that.
Is it going to work? Because I'm old enough to remember when David Cameron promised to cut net migration to tens of thousands. Now it's nearly 700,000. So why should we believe you this time?
Well, exactly. I mean, people have got a right to question that and they want to know how this is going to work. But these are actually good, solid proposals. So we are simply not going to give those visas out to people who want to come over as dependents. So
we can judge you on that then. So if, by the next election,
absolutely.
If the numbers aren't coming down, then what voters have a right to...
Absolutely. So
out?
This time next year, the estimate is about 300,000. We think we should cut from the current figures. Now, that would actually cut it in half. Now, there are some people who like it then halved again the year after, and some want to get it down to the tens of thousands. But I think going from 675 odd to 300 odd is quite a big change in 1 year. So proposals that James Cleverly's outlined today, we've actually said how we're going to do that. It's costed, it's got the numbers in there, it's got the figures, it's got the research. I'm really confident it's going to work.
OK. Now, one of the points you mentioned there is you want to stop dependents coming over. So care workers, for example, bringing their families to the UK. Unison has said these cruel plans spell total disaster for the NHS and social care. They benefit no one. Estimates are that this is going to reduce the number of care workers coming to the UK. Those are figures the government is using as well. We're critically short of care workers. These are people who are looking after our elderly and vulnerable. Shouldn't we be encouraging people to come to the UK?
Well, absolutely. But, of course, Unison are there to protect workers, and you don't protect workers by pushing them into a low-wage economy. Now, we look at social care. They're some of the lowest-paid people in society who do an incredibly important job to us. Now, we're not saying, and this is one of the announcements today, that we're going to cut the visas there. Now,
yeah,
if you
come on, look, you're saying that you're not going to allow them to bring over their families. You know that that's going to, make people less likely to come over. That's the whole point of the policy.
But that assumes that everybody that is coming over is actually going into that sector. We also
I'm just
look
talking
at
about just specifically care workers here.
But this is the health workers as well as the care workers. But we'll still get those people who want to come to this country. This is a fantastic country to live in. A lot of people want to come and live here.
Leave their kids at home.
No, but what we're also doing is we're giving them the option that if you are on that lower paid section of a job, the salary requirement, you're exempt from that. But we say as a pushback to that, we are going to have some limits. Now, that is one of the visas that has been abused more than any of the others, including the student visas that we're seeing, where people have started a course, they've brought several family members over and they've not finished it. Now, social care workers, of course, if they do meet that salary threshold later on, then, of course, you can bring family members over, and they may even have family members who meet the threshold themselves. But we've got to have a limit somewhere, but we've also got to train British people up and make sure that people who are without a job are going into employment.
What do you make of Keir Starmer's speech today, talking about not turning on the spending taps?
I'm still waiting for him to make some sort of announcement. He's not really announced anything. He's talking about not spending any money on anything. Then he's talking about not changing any of the proposals that we've done. Then there's this 28 billion that they were going to borrow, and now they're not going to borrow it. And I think people find it pretty uninspiring, really. At
the same time, though, at PMQs, he's talking about immigration. This time he's talking about not spending too much money. He's parking his tax on your lawns, isn't he?
Well, and he's also talking about Margaret Thatcher, which has upset a lot of people. Now, it doesn't upset me. I think she's a wonderful woman who made a lot of fantastic changes to this country, but I think some people in the Labour Party, I don't think they quite see it that way. So I think he made a bit of a mistake there.